In this video, we're going to contrast the different ways in which a UX component can perform CRUD operations against a SQL database. So prior to Alpha Anywhere version 3, you needed to use either data binding or action scripting to update an unbound UX component. So let's start out by looking at how the existing data binding functionality works. So I'm going to go here and choose text box, and then I'm going to choose this little genie here to populate the list from a table. So I'm going to go and choose the Northwind database, and I'm going to choose the customer table, and I'll just choose selected fields here. Let me just go and choose say city and country. Go ahead and choose OK, and I'll say include data binding information. So this will go ahead now and build my component, and then if I go to the data binding section here, I can see it's filled in this information. So what we've done here is we've bound this UX component to the customer table over there, and we've bound these controls that are on the UX component to various fields in the table. But at this point now, when we actually run the component, we don't actually see anything yet because there's still more to do. So now we're going to go to our server-side events, and in the onDialog initialize, we're going to go here and specify load primary keys. So this is going to go now and fetch the primary keys for the table. So now we can see the first record, but we can't yet navigate through the data. So we'll go now to defined controls, and we'll choose record navigation buttons. So let's go there and choose record navigation buttons. So now we have our navigation buttons and we can navigate through the data, but we still can't do CRUD operations. So let's go now and choose a submit reset button over there. Now we have submit reset buttons. Let's actually put this on a new row, and then finally let's go back to our server-side events, and in the after dialog validate, let's put in code that will save the edits back to the database. So we'll go here and say save data, and then after the record has been saved, we'll just edit the record that was just submitted. So now let's go here and save this. This will be UX say CRUD old, and let's also just turn on debugging information so we can see what happened. So we'll go here and say turn on debugging information, and then go ahead now and save this and run this. So now we can navigate through the data. We can go to a particular record, change that to hit the submit button, and we can see that the data was saved to the database. So in this case, we've done data binding at the UX component level, but we can only bind the UX component to a single set of tables. So if I wanted to have other controls on this UX component that maybe did data entry against, say, the products table, I couldn't do that because this UX is bound to the customer table. So this is one method of performing CRUD against a SQL database. Now let's go and do something very similar to this, but using a list with a detail view. So I'm going to go back now and create a new component, and this time I'm going to go to controls, and I'll choose a list control here, and what I'm going to do is use the genie over here. So I'll use the quick setup genie. So I'll say my connection string is Northwind, and our table is going to be again the same customer table. The fields that we'd like to edit are, say, these fields here, city and country, and then I'll say that we have a detail view, and I'll leave the search part undefined, and I'll leave disconnected turned off. So let's go ahead now and click the OK button. So you can see that the component gets generated for us automatically. Now let's pause and pick this up in the next video where we actually run the component. So we're continuing now with our demonstration of the different techniques for performing CRUD operations against a SQL database from a UX component, and we've just built a list control with a detail view, and now we're going to go ahead now and run this component. So we can see now there's our data, and now we can just go, for example, to rep over there, hit the save button, and then hit synchronize, and that has performed the CRUD operation. Now if we wanted to actually not have a two-step process, save and synchronize, we could have easily just gone back to our list over here and set our synchronization policy so that every time the user hits the save button, we automatically synchronize with the server. So we've just gone ahead there and done that. And now let's go and also just make this, say, 6 inches wide so we can see more of the columns right now. So this is going to be UX, let's call this CRUD new, and then go ahead now and save this. So now if I go there and make an edit over there and then hit the save button, you can see it's immediately synchronized, just as it was in this example where we used the old style CRUD operations. So the benefit of using the list with the detail view is that you can see it's much less work to actually set up the UX component so that it can do CRUD operations. But more importantly, we haven't done the binding at the database at the component level. We've done the binding at the list control level. So when we go here to our data binding page, we can see that the component itself hasn't been bound, but that we have data bound list controls in this case. And since the data binding is taking place at the list level, it's very easy to go here, for example, and add another list. So let's go here back to our list controls, and this time we're going to add a list that's bound to a completely different table. So we'll go here to Northwind, and then we'll go and we'll choose, this time we'll choose, say, the employee table, and we'll choose certain, let's choose employee ID, last name, first name, and date of birth, and say country. And then we'll also turn on, say, the detail view for that. So go ahead now and click OK, and then save that and run it. So now you can see we can go to the customer table and make an edit and then save that, and it got synchronized immediately. And here's our employee table. So let's go here and change that to, say, Andy, and then hit the save button and then the synchronize button. So now we basically have data binding defined at the list level as opposed to the UX level. So now we've got data binding at for list 1 and list 2, and we can do CRUD operations against two completely independent unlinked tables from the same UX component. So what we've shown in this video is how the list control with a detail view is an alternative method to using data binding at the UX level for doing CRUD operations against a SQL database. Thanks very much for watching.